So welcome everyone. As I was telling, we have today Ibone Ametzaga Arregi, professor of the Universidad del País Vasco. Before working in the Universidad Pública de Navarra, Universidad de Vigo, and with some international stays, for example, the University of Aberdeen in Scotland, Imperial College in England, University of California in the US, and University of Oxford. She works mainly with biodiversity, ecosystem functioning, ecosystem services, but I will let Ibone to introduce herself and the topics she has been working for the last years and what she's working today. So thanks a lot, Ibone, for being here today and for giving this talk to everyone. I let you the floor.
Okay, thank you very much for the invitation. It's always nice to be able to just show everyone what we're doing, even if sometimes I would say the politicians don't hear much. But anyway, I hope with us, all of us will just learn a bit more about this subject if you don't know much about it, okay? I have been working in forest ecology with ecosystems, but lately we're just working mainly on ecosystem services and nature-based solution, apart from the other thing. But I think because it's the urban group, I propose this subject. Okay. Whoops. I don't know why it's not changing. How on earth do I do it?
Maybe you need to share again the presentation. I don't know.
What? Share again. Okay, now I know what I have to do. Sorry, it's not with other things. I have to click here. Okay, so I don't know if all of you, depending on the age, you have heard about the Millennium Ecosystem Assessment, which was presented in 2005, but started in 2001 by the UN because the UN was worried about the situation of the biosphere, especially for most of the ecosystems, and based on the idea of Gretchen Daly on ecosystem. Oops. You have one thing on nature services. They decided to join both things, and of course, you can see over there how many experts worked on it. They found that the ecosystems were not very well in our biosphere. So, as we all can imagine, it's mainly human activities which are leading to all this. Not disaster, well, in a way, kind of a disaster. Mainly, you have most of those things. It's true that I always try. I haven't put you all this in, but I usually, when I start a speech, I always say, it's 29% of the Earth's surface is terrestrial. 70% of that is considered habitable, but 50% of that 70% is used by humans. Okay, especially for agriculture and for our feeding. Okay, you know that all the animals for 1 kilogram maybe of for a cow to produce 1 kilogram of meat maybe needs like 1,000 liters of water. So we are changing it and we are using it, but all that has an effect on how the ecosystems are functioning and all the benefits that they can give to us. So in the end, they are very important, as we are seeing lately, and we saw with the COVID, for our well-being. Everybody was running, at least here, to go outside, when we had to be confined. So in 2008, thanks to the County Council of Biscay and also the Autonomous University of Madrid and other groups, we started the evaluation of Millennium Ecosystem Assessments at the beginning in Biscay. Okay, many of these things, as you must have seen in your career, starts because in this case the deputy of the County Council, who was on the environment, who was the main in the environment, he was an ecologist. He was a ecologist like me. He was in my same office, but he was now in the County Council of Biscay. Okay, and and after that, then we were able to join it also at the level of the Basque Country, and the idea, as it was for the one that was developed by the UN, as you can see, was always trying to use or to find the knowledge in order to be able to help to, in a way, see the future actions, what effect are going to have in ecosystems, in the end to the ecosystem services or the benefits that we're getting from them. Okay. and see how we can reduce all that and how, in a way, we can work with them, okay? So that's what we started doing with them, and well, this is the idea of maybe of ecosystem services that you may have heard of the functioning, all this is the way we all know that ecosystem function, but all that gives us many benefits, okay? Some of them are what they call provisioning, we have here, provision services, which are very easy. That the society understands them very well because it's like food, timber, water, okay? And then there are the cultural ones, which are they are more because we enjoy being there, no? Okay, being there on knowledge or just feeling better. But the ones which are very important, which are the regulatory ones, no? The ones that really can mitigate or make us adaptation or control of pests or these days, no, which is pollination, which is in the eye of everybody. Those are the ones that many times we don't realize how important they are. Okay, so we started with all these, which in the end, as I said, they are very important. They are all joined and make us have a well-being, which means in the end freedom of choice. Okay, that's what makes us feel well. And knowing nowadays that despite having a high quality of life, no, there are many problems. People are having many problems, especially mental problems. So something is not working well. Okay, so for the ecosystems, as we know, no, for them to be providing us all those services, they depend a lot on what we do, okay, on our decisions. So we have some indirect drivers, as you can see there, demography, economy, but there are other direct ones. Like many times the PBAs is saying, no, they're saying that the lands, the change of the land use is very, very important. Nobody wants to really tackle that. They go for energy. I don't know in your communities, but here the Basque community is all let's reduce energy or go to other kind of energies, the provision, blah, blah, blah. But nobody wants to really go for the one which is the main one, and it hasn't changed, at least. It's like the change of the land use, okay, making the ecosystems more simple or more monospecific, which in the end don't help. That doesn't help at all for the functioning in the end of all the biosphere. Okay, so we have a big responsibility on that, as we all know. And when we have been working with this on all this year, we have been working with using indicators. We're working with the statistics of the Basque government, asking them please to provide us for more indicators, which will help us to do our research. Also, we have been doing mapping, working with with people, social perception, asking them. All that helps a lot. You will see now, and then also in the future, no. This is one way of addressing the problem of if we are going to do this. What will happen, from the provision of ecosystem services, and also trying to implement them, which is not very easy. Okay, with our main aim is just biodiversity is the base of life, and in the end is what will help us on our well-being. But understanding biodiversity not only as a species, as you all know, from genetic, species, ecosystem, and in the end is the landscape, which is we need resilient landscape if we want to maintain at least our well-being. Okay, and for that you need to get information from all technical people or indigenous people, scientists, normal people, and all that. In order for all together, also politicians, which are very, very important in this case, especially here. And it's not easy many times to really show them the importance of doing things. I'll show you some examples that we had. But in the end, so we have the main problem. We just define the problem, and then all of us try to find the solution. Okay, and everybody using this language of ecosystem services is an easy way for the whole society, all the whole stakeholders to be able to see what, depending on what you do, what benefits are you going to get, or if you are really going to destroy your habitat, which is most of the time happening. This idea of ecosystem services, as I say, is a good language. for all this landscape management and trying to show the society what can happen depending on what you do. And it's just, well, from Europe, it's just saying you can just use it in any kind of policy, climate, agriculture, and whatever. So following this, trying to find, this is the Basque community, the autonomous community, and what we did for the Basque government, okay? We found multifunctional areas, which means is that you can get different ecosystem services. I have to say that the number of ecosystem services that you can, in a way, measure depends a lot on the information that you have, okay? And at least, in one of the last ones, we have more, but we were able to use only regulatory ones, eight of them, which Europe also says that are the main ones that you have to use, because the other ones will just go. In this regulatory services is included habitat maintenance, okay? So that's why it's there. And to find the multifunctional areas here, as you can see, there are two colors, blues and greens. What we asked in our mapping was I'm not going to explain how we get the values and all that, but the maximal values that we get, they go from 0 to 5, okay? And we always ask to find a multifunctional area, it had to have at least 4 or 5, the value of 4 or 5, which was mainly on number of species and all that, and then areas of more than half a hectare, and at least have 4 other ecosystem services on values of 4 and 5. Those ones were the priority areas, which will help us to design what Europe is now asking for, which you might have heard, green-blue infrastructure, okay? Europe, after having the Natura 2000 network, they have realized, and we have all seen, that biodiversity is continue being reduced, okay? So now Europe, some years ago in 2013 or something like that, they started with a green-blue infrastructure, which in a way is just trying to manage, as it says over here. It's a strategic planning network of natural, semi-natural areas with other environmental features designed to manage and deliver a wide range of ecosystem services while enhancing biodiversity. Okay, this is very important because as ecologists, we know that all the landscape should be well managed, okay, the best of it, but that's not happening, okay? So at least this one is just saying for that, because we need it for our well-being. What do we understand from green infrastructure? But depends where we are. Okay, if we are in outside our cities, here we see on the left. No, here there are parks. Natural areas, or could be also agricultural areas, depending on how they are. Then you have the peri-urban areas. Okay, and then you have in the cities. You can have you might have seen the green roofs or streets with trees. That would be the infrastructure in an urban area. In peri-urbans is a bit bigger, no? And then the other ones, okay? Green and blue. Mainly, we always say green. Here I have one thing here that doesn't allow me to, I cannot get rid of it. Sorry. So what is very important in our case, when we decided to see the multifunctionality, okay, and one of the services could have been, I don't know, the fixation of CO2 and air pollution and all that. What we have, we have it very clearly, and I have to say that the politician didn't have it, is that in our case, I don't know in your communities, but here in Biscay and Gipuzkoa, most of the landscape potentially is forest, native deciduous forest, but most of it are plantations, mainly Pinus radiata plantations, and now eucalyptus plantations are growing. For us, plantations are not, in this case here you have different elements that could be, forest plantations are not they are not considered within the or could be included within this green infrastructure, because what they do is they cut them every 20 years. So in the end, you don't get services. Okay, so that's something that that we, for example, we don't. When we design our green infrastructure, those plantations are not in. But for example, I'm just telling you how politicians going another way. It's true in the last directives of landscape management on the high level of the Basque Country, ecosystem services have been included. They talk about the green infrastructure, but when they have said which is the green infrastructure and natural park connectivity, blah blah blah, but within the natural parks and not protected areas, there are many plantations. Okay, which for us, we wouldn't include them. While there are many other areas outside these protected areas which could be included. Okay, so here you see an example of what they're really green or blue infrastructure. They need to have a minimum size, be multifunctional, and potentially you need to connect them. So what happens? So many times they are not connected, as we have seen. So so I think something has been changed. So what we started was, in this case, if we see here, for example, is how we can join them. Okay, so in the landscape, there are different programs. They find the easiest way to do it, but the problem is in cities. Okay. What happens in this green-blue infrastructure in cities? How can we see? Because what the main idea of the green-blue infrastructure is to provide of services, ecosystem services. Okay, and the idea was, how could we help the planners to decide which sites are the ones that are lacking of, or there is a big demand of a service. For example, that could be, in this case of Bilbao, we addressed 3 of them: cooling, temperature, pollution, and runoff for flooding. Okay, you remember that 1983 there was a big problem with flooding in Bilbao. And I can tell you all that nothing has changed within the watershed, but anyway. And but at least what we decided was, let's see how we can design a new indicator that can show us that can help the planners decide where they need to do more natural areas. Okay, and now we call them nature-based solutions, and where we can put more green areas if you want. Okay, so this is more or less Bilbao. Bilbao is 41 square kilometers. It's true that over there says 300, nearly 400 inhabitants. That's inside what you're seeing inside the city. Okay, if you get a big Bilbao, is 1 million inhabitants. Most of the green areas, which you see here on the left, and this one here, are, well, more or less the 80% of the green areas are in the peri-urban area, where there is only 0.4% of the population. And on the other hand, in the urban area, which is all here, most of it is artificial, and there are more or less 40 neighborhoods. When we work here to know where there was a mismatch between supply and demand of ecosystem services, we work with neighborhoods, and there are more or less 40. Okay, but it's true that even if a big part of it is artificial, people in general, in 5 or 15 minutes walk, they find a green area. Okay, so so one of the things that we had to do was to decide the different types of urban green areas that there are in Bilbao. So here you have in these tables how we classify them. Okay, because the idea was to see what are the green areas, then try to find the supply of ecosystem services, see the demand of those neighborhoods, where the green areas are, for the services, and then see, in which areas they needed more or less. That was the idea, not trying to design an easy way. So we had water, which was, mainly was the Ria of Bilbao, of course. There are some small areas, but most of it is the Ria. Clustered trees, not trees like small groups. Street trees, that, there are quite a lot. The problem with the street trees many times is how much they prune them and all that. But anyway, shrubs, now and branches, areas which not most of them are inside, very in the more center areas, but which are not very much managed. Mixed areas that you have grassland mainly and trees, which would be parks, urban parks, and grasslands. It's very typical, to have all these grasslands that they cut them a lot, and we're trying to change all that habit, but we will see. And here you have, how we found some of them. They were given to us by Parks and Gardens, but some of them we have to use infrared lights, infrared bands in order to find them, okay? Because one of the problems many times is that you don't have much information of the sites. You know that it's a green area, but you don't know exactly which species and all that. So because of that, we didn't have that information. We had to use bibliography in order to calculate the supply of the services. And for that, there were two references, Famugia and Ferraguti, and where is the other one? And Excel, et al., which they had values on what these types of, for example, clustered trees, but what was the supply of the service, and with that we were able to more or less to calculate how much was the supply of the different the runoff retention, air pollution, or the cooling. This is depending on what they were, the values that they had, and all this was. When we did it on a surface, what we did is make grids of 1 meter, and then you put the value there, and then you divide by the sidewalk. It's just in the paper, you have all the information in the paper, but the idea was, let's see each type of green unit, what they give us, and then we could use also the demand. The demand mainly was calculated on the proportion of people that were living in the neighborhood. And in some cases, you can also decide, depending on how big or how tall the buildings are. Well, we had all that information, okay, of all the buildings given by the town hall to us. So we could calculate more or less how many people were within its neighborhood, and in that way we could calculate what was the demand of the service. Okay, and then everything was transformed into 0.1. Okay, using the value, the minimum, and all that. And the idea in the end was we designed this mismatch index, which in the end is just having how much is the supply and how much is the demand due to the aggregation. Okay, and what we did is you had in its place, you could have what was the demand, the supply of each of the three services that we only studied. Okay, so everything was going from the maximum was 3, and then the demand. Okay, so in the end here you have supply and demand, and with that we got some numbers that will show us, what was the mismatch between the areas. So here you have the different types. I have one thing here that doesn't allow me to see all. Let's see. No, I cannot move it. Then here you have in this table, you have all the different types of vegetation or units that we had. Here's how many of them, the sizes, the mean size, the total area of them, and then here is the contribution of all of them to, in general, okay, to the runoff, no, the problems with the runoff. Or the service which provide, okay, water had 20% of it, or 24%, or mixed vegetation was 23%. That was just number to see which one was more, but in some of the cases, some of them were very important, not because of the service they were giving, in the case, for example, sometimes of trees, is because there were many trees, or grassland, because there were a lot of grassland, even if maybe the potentiality of the service is not so high, okay? And here you have all the 40, more or less the 40 neighborhoods, and showing the mismatch between in the values. The greens, the ones that are more positive, okay, in this green, what they are showing us that they do give a big supply, okay? They have a demand, but they give more. There is more supply of services than the demand. While you can see here in the middle, the red ones, the red ones are the worst ones. I have to say that here we have two of them. The big red one, this one, which is in Daudzu, some of them, Abando. Abando is one of the part, well, the center is more to the bottom, more around here, and it's one of the, it would say, the highest people that have the highest amount of money. They live there, but they have a big problem on the supply of service costs there, because they have trees, but just trees in the streets. I mean, many times they're pruned, so they need to change and try to make more clustered trees, or try to put more green areas, because but of course you can imagine it's the center of Bilbao. No, it's not the old part, okay? The old part is more down here. It's the center, the new part, the center, if you want to, and but very close to it is this one, which is San Francisco, which is one area that now is a bit better, but over there many migratory, people from outside, they have come to live there, and the conditions are now they are improving, okay? But you can see that they have the same problem of Abando, which is one where people have a quite a quality of life, let's call it that way, okay? So, hang on. So what we did, this principal coordination analysis, and it showed that mainly it was shrubs, street trees, and water were the main green areas green blue areas that made the difference. What we also saw was that the important thing was not to have only one type of green area. The best thing was, to have 2 or 3 different ones, okay? And here you have the A that had the highest mismatch, which were all of these ones, and you can see that it was mainly the ones that had street trees, but the street trees were not connected. It's very important, if you have the crown of the trees, if they are connected, that gives they allow for the temperature, for example, to reduce more, or trees are very important for also for pollution control. Yes. So at least we were able to show, where they had to do some changes. And I had to tell you that we have been many times with the county council, but I promise you that I don't think that they came very much into it what we were saying. But anyway, we just tell them, and then, I don't know in your case, but in our case, it's not so easy. So from there, we now all with all green and blue infrastructure. What we need, of course, I have said you need a minimum size, and they have to be connected. And in many cities, you need to create this to create new areas. But many times, but we have seen when there is a lot of rain, they channelize everything instead of trying to just make everything go more slowly and all that, no? Based more on nature. So from there, that is why it has come the nature-based solutions. The problem with nature-based solutions is that many times, most of the times, all this design, they do it done by engineers, and what they do is they copy the function, but they don't use nature to do it. Okay, for example, I'm sure you have heard about all these suits, the surface which they have the infiltration. They could be green areas, why not? But they are not green areas, okay? So that's another thing that they came up to our brains. And luckily, we were invited to take part, we took part to apply for a life project, which was in Salamanca, and the idea over there was to apply some nature-based solutions, and and see, and in a way design them. They had already manual design, but try to see how they were improving the ecosystem services they were giving. What happens that in most of the times when the town halls have to ask to companies, for example, they want to do a park, they don't know what are the criteria that they need to fill in to fulfill in order for the park, for example, to be really a nature-based solution, which helps different problems that area might have. Okay, so knowing all these ideas of many times things are done. Not thinking on the challenge that, for example, the city has and the aim that should have that, and they don't talk to people. They don't think on what other, for example, how depending how you do that work, that construction, for example, or that park. No, it doesn't need to be a construction. It could be a park or a small thing with water. They don't, for example, think on how many new jobs could create or how much. If you do it right, you can stop for having to spend money on restoration or reconstruction because there have been flooding and I don't know, many houses have been destroyed and all that. Okay, so based on that, we decided to design a simple framework based on ecosystem services, which, as I say, is the good language for all to understand, in order to really see if the nature-based solutions that the town hall or if the town hall has a problem. No? Most of the town halls may have problems on, I don't know, pollution or runoff or temperature, and in order for them to have like a recipe, let's put it like a recipe, so they can, when the town halls, when they want something new to be done or work, they have to announce it and companies will go, but you have to tell them what you want them to do it to fulfill, no? Okay. So what we decided was, well, let's see if, knowing what we have learned from working in Salamanca and reading and all that, what could be the best or some simple methodology framework that would help for town halls to know what to ask for in order for the nature-based solution that they may propose to be multifunctional, in the idea that in one way it will give different ecosystem services, but at the same time, not only environmentally, but also including the economic and the social characteristics. Okay, so then we work in Salamanca. Okay, there you have it like nearly 4,000 hectares, and part of it is built. Since 1988, the whole city is a heritage city, and it has different cattle routes. And the work, I mean, the life project was Via de la Plata, and which is the main route where the cattle passes by. Okay, and they had some different ideas. You had this. The 4 zones, the 6 zones that they were working on. And one of the main problems in all these heritage cities, as you can imagine, is that there is a lot of built areas. They have problems with temperature, with water runoff, with pollutions as well. But they wanted to address also adaptation and mitigation and different ones, different services. Okay. So, so they decided that they were going to do 4 types of nature-based solutions, okay, for the problems that they usually have, because all these cities usually are thought of cultural services more than regulatory services, okay? But anyway, they decided they went for planting trees in the streets and all that, the naturalization of non-trees, I mean grasslands, so areas with grass, trying to make them more naturalized, which meant planting trees. Then green of buildings, trying to make one. They made some walls. They built some walls and they put plants into them, and also because I was saying one of the problems is also flooding and water runoff. They in some places they did suits trying to to facilitate the filtration, but in other places they try to put all these places for green gardens, as they call them. So our idea was, let's see how we can decide or define a framework that assesses multifunctionality based on ecosystem services, because as I say, it's quite easy language for all to understand. And it was based on a multi-criteria analysis, having in mind socioeconomic and environmental criteria. And as I said before, some of the things for this multi-criteria were mainly from our experience and from review and discussed with technical people, okay? So what do you think we could include in this and that? And they were socioeconomic criteria, which has 5 descriptors, which is the challenge, which the idea is has really the challenge being identified, is the flooding a problem in the part that they are going to do the nature-based solution, and which one is going to be the aim of it. One thing is to identify, another thing is if it's really going to fulfill it. Also the impact that could have in the local economy, thinking on jobs, but also could be, for example, if local companies will be involved in the design of this nature-based solution, or also también, also as well the environmental costs that are not going to happen because if you do the things right, and another part which in this group of criteria were how people were involved into it. Okay, there are different ones. It's just that would be nothing. Another thing could be that you go and you explain them. Another one would be that you explain them and you talk to them and see what ideas they give you. And the other one is when they really take part into the design. Okay, and on the point of view environmental point of view, we used seven criteria, and all of them were relating with 17 ecosystem services. Okay. And these criteria were diversity, species, species, type of actions, how they are going to be implemented. If, for example, in this case, in trees, for example, are the trees going to be in groups, or the trees are going to have like a big pitch or a small pitch, because that's very important for the tree and also for the environment around it. When it's the case of the environment, you will see some of them is if it's close to a school or not, because that's also important for the service that could have, for example, to children, connectivity between other, green areas, or what else? Something very important, the size, the origin of the components, meaning in this case the species. You will see if the species are local or they are not local, or the diversity of them, and the components, which species they are. And they were aggregated in 4 groups, with the characteristics of a nature-based solution, the location, the extension, we will see. And the descriptors that they were used were the number of species, number of individuals. I will show you one example of it, okay? But now we're going to see this is how the index, the multifunctional index, which is the MUNAP, which is down here, is based, okay, is organized. Okay, so we know that we want to overcome some challenges. These are the different types of MBA nature-based solution that they are going to use, that we have designed it for, okay? Not for all of them, only for these ones, okay? And the framework which is behind it can be developed for others, okay? And here we have the multifunctionality is based on socioeconomic, as the challenge, the impact, the participation, and on the environmental, as I say, the 7 of them. And then that will give us one value, okay? And what we do is you calculate the value, the multifunctionality value for each of them, because this is a big project that have different ones, okay? So you also can calculate for each of them, and you will see that they are ponderated by different numbers. And this is it because these are the P is the planting of trees, and we know that trees are the main ones to try to not to challenge, to fulfill the objectives in the city, which mainly are for the cooling and the runoff, okay, and pollution. Then this is when green areas, this one is when green areas are planted with trees, so they are better than just green roofs or green walls or just all these places with water or the suits, okay? The good thing of this framework is that it also gives you when you get the numbers, we gave the minimum performance value of the multifunctionality. What does it mean? That for when you do the calculations, you, depending on the value that you get, am I fulfilling? So if I don't pass this number, that means that is not multifunctional. But if I change things that you have in your recipe, if you want to, as you will see it, then you can improve it, okay? And then you can improve your multifunctionality. But all the different ideas that we will see here in these tables are what gives you the idea of how you are fulfilling towards the functionality, but if you don't fulfill them, you know how you can improve them, okay? So for example, in this one, in table 2, so the economic criteria explains you why and this and that, and the challenge, so if it's identified and the minimum performances, the challenge are identified jointly by urban planners and citizens, okay? That gives you the minimum thing, okay? And here you have the challenge have not been identified. It's a 0, no? And if it's been identified 1 or joint planners and citizens, if it's challenge it's only by urban planners, is 0.5, and no challenges 0, okay. And another one, what I was telling you about the link it to the objectives as well, but the minimum is that at least one objective of what you need will be linked, okay? Or your action will be linked to it. And another one is the impact on local economy. What I was telling you explains why, and explains the descriptor, and tells you here the minimum. At least 50% of the suppliers must be local, no? Or for example, if you do that, you may reduce the amount of energy that you are going to use for temperature or for control the temperature in the buildings, no? Because at least the reduction of that, which many times is not controlled, is not done. And here is a bit more complicated. This is the table 3 is very long, okay? I just put one part of it to see. It's the same one as the other one, but in this case, what it tells you, for example, characteristics of the NBAs, no? That we saw that it was a descriptor. And this is biodiversity. This is applied when it means all is for the 4 types of NBAs, so nature-based solutions that are going to be used. And here, following the thesis classification of ecosystem services, here it says, I'm not going to remember all of them, the number that it fulfills. So here you have the services that can help if you do the diversity, and of course here it says the more is the diversity of trees that you put, or the plants, or all that, it's also positive. So high species diversity would be the minimum, no? Or for the type of actions, what I was telling you before, how are you going to plant the trees? If they're one by one, but they have a big pitch and all that. But the minimum thing would be trees in double rows, or on groups and on continuous living pits. Okay, that would be the minimum that will give you a good value for for your multifunctionality. And in the end, what you have is this table 4, the descriptor, where you have all the descriptors that joins everything. This is in the end is just an Excel. And in it, you have, for example, for environmental criteria, the descriptors. What you have for planting of trees, you have the diversity or naturalization of no good number of individuals of each species, or number of species that you have, and here it explains you depending on how many you have and all that, which rule it follows, then you know which the number that you have to put. Okay, I know it's a bit complicated, but anyway, it's once you have it, it's not so difficult. And in the end, it gives you a table, which is one here on the right, and here is just a summary of all the different actions that they did within the project, which is, for example, planting trees, pues number of intervention 24, pues how many trees, blah blah blah. This is just to describe what the NBA native based solution that they use. And here is, for example, in the end, the table, no, the table, which gives you. For planting trees, but goes all the different impact, it has the numbers depending on what we have seen before, and it gives you, if I'm not wrong, the value, multifunctional value for that one, for each of them. Then you add all of them, and in this case, it gives you a value of 3.95. The minimum value that they need to reach is 5.52. All the values are explained in, I'm not going to put in all the annexes that the article has, okay? But the idea is, okay, they didn't reach what they did with the actions that they did and the way they did it, they didn't reach to the minimal value. Okay, what can I do to improve it? So, for example, if they change, we don't have it here, but if they change the different species of trees, instead of being most of them one species, or if they use species that have fruits on different points that I haven't explained all of them, which are in the other tables, then they can improve it and they know how they can increase the multifunctionality of the nature-based solution that they're using, okay? In this case, as I say, a project that has different ones, okay? And in the end, the project value is this one. But improving all of these ones, they can reach to this, they could improve and reach to the minimal value, being the maximum value 8. And in this recipe, in this table with all these things, and then, as I say, each of them have how they have improved it and all that. The town halls, when they announce a new construction, a new project, they know they can say, okay, yes, we want to make a new park, but the park needs to have this amount of different trees. They have to be, for example, good for pollinators, or they need to have fruits, or they cannot be, for example, there are some trees that they give allergies, for example, because some of them, with ecosystem services, some of them are positive, some of them can have these services that they call, no? So they have like a recipe on the things that they have to ask for. So in that way, to be able to, in a simpler way, be able really to have a nature-based solution that follows the needs of the people, so people understand them, they design with them, and in the end, that's the best way for them to work. And the main thing is, and they have nature into it. Because as I say, many times I say, no, this is nature-based solution, and you say no, because a nature-based solution is not that you copy what the nature does. Nature-based solution is something that has nature into it. So I don't know if I have explained you very well, but anyway, you can, if you need the articles, if you cannot have them, just ask me and I can send you. And just always finish my speeches or talks or whatever with at least with this one of Wilson, and this one of Thoreau, which is important, no, for all of us. And then it's also very important. Well, I think it's very interesting to read El Buen Antepasado. I don't know if you know, he's a philosopher, and he's talking that we have to be good antepasados, okay? And it gives some exercises for to talk with people and to think, no? Because we're lucky, maybe in a way, to have been born here, but we could have been born somewhere else. So, and it's true that for the next generations, no, we have to be good antepasados. So anyway, thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Ibone, for your great presentation. It was very. I learned a lot. I learned quite a lot. It's a different topic from what we usually have here in the IGUE. So I am super happy to have you
Thank
here
you.
today. I will let quickly to the people if they have any questions, because maybe we are a little out of time. But if someone has
I didn't realize.
some questions, is your time. We have like 5 minutes for questions before giving the chat. If not, I have one quick question. Maybe I can start. Yeah. So. Yeah, you commented a lot about how we could improve the ecosystem services in the cities, and for example, you get the perfect example of Salamanca, that is a UNESCO World Heritage City, and there's a lot of propositions. I don't know, because there was so many information that maybe I lost something. But how can these measures you provide, like this nature-based solution and everything, can fit with the UNESCO heritage area? Because sometimes it's not possible even to plant a tree, because, for example, in Salamanca, I have been there several times, and in the center, everything is like stones, because it's protected stones, because it's all that. So how can this be made? I don't know.
Not all the nature-based solutions have been applied in the whole area, okay? But for example, in the old part, or the more cultural part, what they have done is put big big pots for trees. I mean, you have to work, and I think in some parts, I think they have even lifted the stones or the pavement in order to put it. It's true that the design, I mean, they designed that they were going to do that when they applied for the LIFE project. They already had it in mind. And yes, you have to work. I mean, many of the trees were planted outside, outside by the river, okay? But the wall, for example, the wall has been done in one wall that was already there. As you're coming from the river, I can only one side, okay? I think it's the park of what these los dos enamorados, ¿cómo son? El parque de just below that park. Over there, they were going to make they build a wall, a small wall, put it with plants, and you know, it's small actions that you can slowly be doing, okay? But things as simple as asking people to put plants in the balconies or in the windows, all that in a good way helps. But yes, it's not very easy, and that is why that was in the title of the paper, says a World Heritage City, okay? Because it's something very special. It's the first city where they have tried to apply nature-based solution and in the city. And
Okay, we have a question of Santi. Thank you for the answer. Sorry, Santi Oliveres.
Hi guys. Hi Ibone. Thanks for the talk, and thanks to the organizers for organizing this community. It's quite nice. Ibone, Ibone, not sure. Ibone. I have a quick question. Maybe I didn't realize because I'm a bit cold and dizzy, but I try to follow. And I am curious, how do you select the different services that you consider in the multifunctionality studies? Whether or not is it the city saying I am interested in such and such and such, whether or not is the data available, or whether or not is some kind of a priori decision?
In the cities, the main ones are pollution, temperature, and that. But in this case, we didn't. What we did was see the green areas that they were. See the nature-based solution they were giving, and then according to that, see what, depending on how they are, that's why there is this table with all the ideas of what type of ecosystem services can give, okay? We didn't measure them. In this case, in the table, just tells you the CSIC, and it tells you which ones can give, once it's done, one can provide. But we didn't go, the green areas usually go for the ones that the cities need. In the case of in the Basque Country, the previous one, in those ones, we only did 3 because at that time we were starting with all that, and they were not data. Most of the times the problem is data. That's why in that case, the supply, it was done with information of New York and in England, I think it was, how they have measured. But the problem with working with ecosystem services is that you really need to find the indicator to be able and for that. Even if you know which one you need, and well, I want this one, then how can I measure it and try to find the indicator or the proxy? We work with proxies in the end that can help you.
Thanks.
Okay, good. So I don't know, Jessica. Yeah, so Jessica wants a question.
Yes, I have like a small question, quick question. So I was wondering, like for two, the same park. My question is, if you have like 2 different managements, more like if you want to use pesticides, another more artificial management, the scores that you put to them is the same, or it changes depending of the management of the area?
In this case, I have to say that we haven't, as far as I remember, we haven't included the management. We have only said you have to put, in this case, okay? It's more like, the environmental, but that's also important because one of the problems that there is they do a lot of pruning, and once you prune a tree, then the service, okay? The potentiality, the tree has the potentiality,
Changes.
but no, in this case, I have to say we haven't gone for that. That would be, I guess, the next step. I thank you. Very interesting question.
Okay. Okay, thank you so much. It was very interesting talk and very different for what we usually do. So thank you for coming here and tell us about it. It was so interesting. Thank you so much.
Thank you. No, thank you to you all. It's always good. I hope I will be able to continue going to, because I have only heard one of the one that you have.
Okay,
anyway.
perfect. So thank you a lot for this talk and all the information. If you want to see it again, we will upload this into YouTube. So and yeah, if you want to know more about the group we are making, what we are making and everything, we have a newsletter. We have, so you can.
Yes, I haven't.
Yeah.
I thought I had put my name into it. Maybe I haven't. I will check. Okay, sorry.
Yeah, and I will.
And if anybody needs anything, just write me.
The next. I don't know if you can see the screen. We can present the next speaker. It will be Martina Ferraguti. She will talk about these vectors and reservoirs, the role of birds and mosquitoes in urban areas. It will be exactly in 1 month. So yeah, we will send.
Juan is not it's not showing. You're not showing the.
I will try, and if not, I will let you. Has some commitment. Well, okay. Yeah, I will send some information. We will share some information soon in the email. So thank you everyone for being here. Thank you all the attendants and all the questions, and especially Ibone for your